There. Hello. I am now live on all my channels: LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And today's topic really is anything goes. Hello, hello. Thank you for saying hello if you're here. The funny thing is, I just got back from grocery shopping with my mom. And the whole time I was thinking today's topic is going to be about how to grow your podcast. Who knows if that's a topic you're interested in learning more about, please let me know. We can certainly discuss that. But in general, any challenges that you have, whether it's about starting your business, growing your business, trying to focus on or trying to pick a niche maybe you want to consider to build a business on, why don't we have a conversation around that? Since I have to say that if I may just reflect on some of the things I learned in the past 2 years. Number one, I am just so grateful that I had the opportunity to start my business before the pandemic. I had this urge of starting my business when I was in my mid 20s. So I didn't actually hit the ground running until I would say the end of 2015. I didn't really have a confidence and to really start my own journey. And I'm thrilled that I had the runway and the sort of the opportunity to really experiment before the pandemic, because last year, also in 2020 to 2021, so many people came to me and said, I what are some of the quick ways to make money fast? How do I multiply my income streams? Right now, I people learn very quickly they don't want to just rely on a full-time job, and I feel that pain. So I think it's essential for all of us to realize that we don't have to put all our eggs in one basket. And thank you so much for being here. And I also actually want to talk about. Oh my goodness, thank you so much, Dolce62. I voted for you to have a talk at our Akamai Tech Talk, but they chosen the Was Apple guy instead. Thank you so much. Absolutely. And it's funny on that note is like, how do you get noticed or how do you be chosen to speak at these conferences? Personally, I feel like my main interest really throughout my entire career has not really been focused on speaking. Maybe later on I'll be more interested, but I have to say that I really enjoy virtual speaking, moderation, and it's just so flexible. I spent my early 20s traveling on the road as a consultant. So I remember just it was sexy for about 2 weeks being on the road alone. At the time, I was flying from Boston to Scottsdale, Arizona. So it was, like a 6 hour flight. And, it was just so challenging to be away from family and friends and to be on the road, no matter what the per diem is. I remember it was $75 per day, but it was just it was just, not that interesting when you're doing all these things on your own. Thank you so much. And I appreciate all the messages that you guys have sent to me during the live stream. And speaking of famous, right? It's interesting that think about this for a second. I think a lot of us are binging on YouTube. Everybody has their own guilty pleasure. For some folks, it's TikTok. For me, it's certainly YouTube. That's why YouTube is a platform for me to create content. But have you noticed that whoever you follow on YouTube, a lot of these people you had before you got to know them, you're probably thinking to yourself, how come I have never heard of these people before? And YouTube also had this algorithm that they play based on the people you already liked, followed, subscribed to. Then it's showing you people from the similar genre, whether you are into guitar, learning how to play the guitar, or how to produce YouTube videos, or how to make money on YouTube. All these people start kind of just appearing in your life, right? It's fascinating. So it's absolutely true that we don't have to be famous and appeal to a really large audience. Instead, it's true. Kevin Kelly's 1,000 true fans. In order to build your business, all you don't even need 1,000 people. You probably need 100 people. Going back to Feisworld podcast back in 2014, that was my springboard. I could never imagine this springboard to go from nobody knew, heard about me, didn't know what I was doing, to all of a sudden, it was a game changer for me that people are coming to me. And YouTube, I think, really propelled me to another level where brands are coming to me, knowing who I am, what I do, and they're approaching me directly. Since we're going to talk about podcasting. I feel like I want to talk about podcasts, but it's not just about podcasting. It's so relevant to our everyday life, to the way that we approach our work. So tomorrow, for instance, my topic was going to be how to grow your podcast, because yesterday was about how to start your podcast. And the format of my 30-day live, it's really about bring people in, having this conversation. There are absolutely no silly questions whatsoever. And yeah, why not? It's almost the holiday season. Let's see if I can change that up a little bit. All right, that's kind of cute. I like it. And I think we need to further the conversation with, okay, I want to grow my podcast. I want to, sign up for this course. But what for? I think we need to talk about I want to grow my podcast in order to, or, because of something. Like, try that today. If you're growing anything, if you're starting a blog, starting a YouTube channel, starting your podcast, or on the journey already, like, ask yourself, I want to grow my podcast in order to do what? What's the point of this? So some of the more direct answer would be, okay, I want to grow my podcast so that my audience will grow, so I can reach more people in the world, so more people can find out what I'm passionate about. So can we be even more transparent for a second? I think if you have a business behind you, whether you work for somebody or you developed a service or a product, you may be thinking, if I can reach more people with this message, maybe they can purchase more, whether it's your own consulting service or maybe just getting to maybe collaboration opportunities. Maybe you can make introductions, right? That you can introduce a group of people to more people later on. So if you can fill in the blank and more truly and fully understand why you're doing what you're doing, it can be very helpful. So I want to break that down a little bit for you for a second. So growing my podcast at the time was, like everybody else, a vanity metric. So it wasn't very helpful. Same thing with people. Everybody was like, when you're young, you want to say, I want to really reach, I want to accumulate my first $1 million so I can call myself a millionaire. And then as soon as you reach that milestone, guess what most people are doing? They want to get to their second, the third million. But somebody, I think it was Noah Kagan again, with his co-host said, is there anything that you cannot do with 1 million versus $2 million? It's kind of interesting that we're constantly going after these goalposts and these milestones, but they have to make sense to us. So I want to put a challenge out there, and which has worked out really well for me. And I so appreciate Dory Clark for talking about it, for inviting me for trusting me to talk about it in her book, Entrepreneurial You, which is, what if I say that you can monetize, you can make money and grow your podcast without counting the downloads? What if you can open yourself up to all these opportunities outside and much beyond of sponsorships and advertiser? You don't have to sit there twiddling your thumbs and just wait. I think that's super, super powerful. That is something that we don't really talk about, but I'm so glad that, especially in the past 2 years, I started to notice there are a lot of podcasters and podcast agencies, meaning companies who specialize in helping people launch, sustain, build their podcast. They will have their own podcast and they will interview different podcasters. And as a result, their podcast becomes a business card. So now they've had the conversation with the creators, and now they can further elaborate to say that was a great conversation, and then piggyback on that to say, did you know that it also offered these services X, Y, and Z? Now, the trick is you have to do it really authentically. You cannot be pushy. Once again, back a few live streams back, it's like people don't ever want to be sold to. So since today it's about this Ask Me Anything, so let me know if you have any questions. I do tend to get questions prior to going live, so I'm going to just look back to my notes and think about the questions being asked on social media as well as via email. So one thing people are kind of interested in getting to know me and the nature of my business, which I haven't really had the opportunity to talk about. I think it's my appreciation and for all the people who reached out since 2020 to choose to work with me. And guys, I mean, I love being a creative entrepreneur because I'm being exposed to so many different types of creative businesses. So let me tell you a few things I've been working on since the pandemic. And so one project that comes to mind, it's related to podcasting, is my dear friend Gustavo Serafini and my co-producer Adam Leffert. Just the three of us. And today we have Viola as well, who is a YouTuber and is a person who also identify yourself as someone with a disability, really join in. And we have been releasing more than 30 episodes. I try to recall all the information from Spotify, what is it called, like Wrapped, for the year. So by the way, if you are a Spotify listener, if you run your show on Anchor, you can get this like annual wrap, and it's so incredible. So Gustavo has since April, interviewed dozens of guests, including the ones you're not even seeing on the show currently. And it is just phenomenal. I think if I don't want to speak on his behalf, he has appeared on my podcast on Feisworld, on my YouTube channel, but in a short 6 to 7 months, he's built incredible relationships, guys, running a podcast for 6 months. And not a whole lot of preparation that went into it. We identified a list of guests and we just went off. And Gustavo, before this opportunity, never really, spoke in public as much. He runs this very own successful company with his brother Marcelo called Pure Audio Video in Florida. And interviewing, it's a really new skill. And he said that he had been listening to my podcast, but certainly a bunch of others as well, and learned that skill and just started practicing right away. So I think that's just incredible. So kudos to Gustavo and my friend Michael Velasquez from L10BA, Seth Godin's L10BA. And we had been in conversation for 2 years before he reached out finally in August 2020 to say, it's time for us to launch Childhood Cancer Hall of Champions. So the website is called childhoodcancerhall.com. I'm incredibly proud of that project because prior to that, I had very little exposure to childhood and pediatric cancer. And it's an area where, unfortunately, so many people do not talk about. And a lot of these parents, it's just unimaginable for the pain that I had to live through, not to talk about the complexity and and the imperfections of all the healthcare systems that we live in. And to be able to work on that with Michael and also my dear content manager, Anna, it's this journey that will continue on for 2022. And it's a project that three of us decided that's not going to be just about the cure. It's not about medicines and about hospital stays. Instead, it's about these children's, their parents, their siblings, their friends' stories. So we included the ability for people to share their stories. So if you are someone, if you know a patient, a child, a family, and please, I encourage you to really tune in and join us at childhoodcancerhall.com. We would love to honor your stories and be able to share with a greater audience. And another dear friend of mine, we're friends, BJ Miller and Sonia Dolan, reached out, and we were able to work on this incredible marketing initiative. And they're still running and working days and nights on Mettle Health, METTLE health.com, where they provide palliative care services through doctors and also healthcare workers. You don't need a referral. And it's just incredible. I would highly recommend you check out metalhealth.com, where they offer these free bi-weekly, monthly webinars, usually hosted, moderated by BJ himself, but there are other healthcare workers involved, doctors as well, to help us everyday people to understand palliative care. And this is beyond, like, before anyone gets sick. You don't need to be experiencing illness at the moment. But for me, it is just incredible training. Sometimes I remember when my dad was diagnosed in 2009, we felt completely helpless. We didn't know what to do whatsoever. And I wish that I had that training beforehand. So I encourage anyone and everyone to absolutely check out and to tune in, understanding that death is part of life. And as a result, how that could inform you to live a better, more fulfilling life. And so another project I want to talk about that I had in such this pleasure to be involved in since 2016 is alexanderbono.com, as well as alexanderbono.org. So Barry Alexander himself, as well as Cosmo Bono, and also our colleagues, Karen Beluso, as well as Timothy Blair, and the four teachers and me as a digital producer basically came together in 2020 since the pandemic to say, what can we bring to the music world, to the music enthusiasts? And we're able to basically build an online academy and start hosting these free webinars. and to really talk about music, to have these master classes. I got to say that these past 2 years have been such an incredible learning opportunity for me, because it's no longer about me creating content and test the market and to see what works, what doesn't work. All of a sudden, I'm being asked to do the same for all my clients. Everybody moved online to see that how quickly can they produce the highest quality content to be able to engage, but also stay engaged with their audience, choosing the right platforms and offer proper customer service and support. And we had the pleasure to also launch a really big program for music teachers in mainland China, and for piano, for vocal, for voice, for string instruments, for violin, flute. And it's such a great experience also, because I get to I'm actually bilingual, and I was able to help people from China, connecting them to a kind of an educational system for music teachers, and help them become better teachers, to talk about pedagogy and to talk about all these teaching and learning experiences. And they have all benefited from that tremendously. And I remember the one thing for anybody who's watching right now and interested in learning how to do business in and with China is very different. People in mainland China uses an app called WeChat, and it's an all-in-one. It's basically this incredible, I would say, it's an app that you can use for everything. For people who have never done it, only heard the name, just so you know, you can pay your electricity bills. You have a QR code. I mean, people in China leave their homes. They don't have to bring anything else other than their phone. They can pay for bus tickets, do literally everything. So that's the platform that we had to learn and adapt very, very quickly in order to work with Chinese teachers. And yeah, I didn't know that this could be happening other than just having me and my mom using WeChat on a regular basis. I ended up teaching a lot of my clients and non-clients how to use WeChat. As a result, my YouTube channel is also influenced by that decision, by that change, because I had to produce several videos on how to navigate WeChat if you're interested in checking it out, including how to basically upload, download large files, how to transfer large video files through WeChat with China. It is something you have to learn how to use an app called Weiyun. So WEIYUN. So I have a very detailed step-by-step tutorial for that on YouTube. So that's been my journey so far. I feel like there's so many other clients and projects I got to experience during the pandemic, and I feel very blessed. And yet I was also a bit surprised by how activated, how motivated people are. So if you feel like you are feeling a little unmotivated these days, or that you feel like the pandemic may or may not be the perfect time for you to launch something, maybe think again, because there's so many more people are now online. We're living in this age of the great resignation, where people are really thinking and rethinking the way they want to live their lives, the way they want to maybe invent or reinvent their careers. So I encourage you to join in. And tomorrow we'll come back, we'll delve into greater details on how to grow your podcast. But before tomorrow, if you're a creator, I want you to write down and exercise this. I want to grow my show. I want to grow my YouTube channel. I want to grow my podcast because, or in order to. You should have more than a single bullet point, but even a single one could start you somewhere. And just to answer that question, I think you can definitely nurture your career and have a longer term goals if you know what your why is. And thank you so much for tuning in today. As always, I'll see you tomorrow at the exact same time. I want you to come in with questions about this session, any of the previous sessions, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is noon PST. With that said, love to this community, and I will see you soon. Bye. All right. Bye, everyone. LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and Twitter.